Hello there, welcome back to my channel and welcome to 2024's sunless tanning video. I try to do one of these almost every year for the last several years, and this is where I pull together as many new sunless tanners that I can find, either new to the market or new to me. I put them through rigorous testing, take countless notes, and then give you my findings. Now this year, I've included something that many of you have requested in the past, and that is arm swatches of each one. It's really tricky to try and get accurate pictures and be able to tell you or let you see the depth of color of each one, because depending on the lighting, the time of day, it can really change how each sunless tanner works. So this year I came up with an idea to use a sticker, and I alternated 4 arms, put that on before applying the sunless tanner so that as it developed, you could see my natural pale skin next to the depth of color of each sunless tanner. I not only took pictures 24 hours after application, but also a week later, so you can really see how each one of these wore. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of how I prep my skin, how I apply each one. I am saving that information for a follow-up video that will come up after this one, and that's going to give you tips of how to be successful at sunless tanning and how to choose the right one for you. So stay tuned for that. But basically, for each one of these, I prepped my skin the exact same with exfoliating, shaving my legs, and then every day after application, I applied a really good thick combination of hydrating moisturizers to my body, because that always helps your sunless tanner look the best that it can over the course of the week. All right, without further ado, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. All right, as we jump into this, I'm going to do this in the order that I tested them. And if you stay tuned to the end, I will give you, though, my top favorites. For each one of these sunless tanners, I'm going to give you bullet point information about each one, the size of the bottle, the price, how they apply to the hands, the feet, the depth of color. I will also put up on the screen those pictures within 24 hours after application and then after 7 days. All right, starting off, I went back to one from a couple years ago that I just couldn't remember what I thought about it. And it's the Tan-Sutical's Coconut Water Mousse. This only comes in one shade, which is dark. This bottle is 6.7 ounces. It is a foam, so it comes out in a foam to apply. The price ranges from $32 to $39. The scent on this, I give a 5 out of 5. It smells like coconut. It's delicious. There's no awful DHA scent with this one. After application, I waited 20 minutes before dressing, and it still felt a little tacky on my skin for about 2 hours. However, after that point, I felt like it dried down, was comfortable to wear, and do my sunless tanning during the day. There's no color transfer because this one has no color guide, so nothing transferred onto sheets or clothes. On my hands, the application was very even. I did wash my hands after 30 minutes and then let the color develop over the course of the day, and I got the full depth of color that way. On my feet, it was a little hard for me to get even, and I feel like that's the trick with a no guide color sunless tanner most of the time. It can be tricky because it's hard to tell exactly where you've applied it, but it was okay. Now, the time for the color to develop on this one is actually, it starts developing after 4 hours. You can see some of that color developing, but your full color is not going to develop for about 18 to 24 hours. Now, I wore this one for 24 hours. For depth of color, this got a 3 out of 5. It was a nice medium tone, nice natural, beautiful look on the skin. And what I loved even better is, even though that wasn't a lot of color to begin with, this wore so well and so evenly throughout the week. I did have a little patchiness around my ankles and feet, but that's pretty typical of most sunless tanners. Moving on to the next one I tested. This is the St. Tropez Self Tan Berry Sorbet. So this was a new scent addition to their line this year. And the shade, there was no specifics. It doesn't say dark or ultra dark or anything. The price was $18. This is 6.7 ounces. It does come with a nice pump. And this does have a guide color, but it's a very nice kind of natural looking color. So I enjoyed this. I do most of my sunless tanning during the daytime hours. So it's always nice when the guide color isn't a crazy green or some crazy odd color. So this one was nice. The scent on this, I was expecting more. I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. It was kind of fruity. I wrote a note that says berries with rose and warm vanilla. I think that's what it says on the website, so maybe that's why I didn't like it. I'm not one that loves the scent of rose perfume. I love roses, but so scent wasn't my favorite, but I feel like it did dissipate, so it was not terrible. Now this one had a very fast dry time. I dressed after 10 minutes and I had virtually no tacky feel. I left this one on again for 24 hours before showering, and on my hands, I felt like this was pretty even. I did leave it on 45 minutes and felt like that still gave me the full depth of color. On my feet, it was actually pretty even. Again, that little bit of guide color was helpful. I had a little bit of transfer on my sheets, but not bad. It was not terrible, so that was a good thing. Now, the depth of color of just one coat on this one was actually less than the Tan-Suticals one. So I gave this one maybe a 2.5 out of 5. And over the course of the week, by the end of the week, it was pretty much gone. You can see there in the photo, and it wasn't terribly splotchy as it wore off, but it wasn't quite as even of a wear as the Tan-Suticals. But at the end of the week, it was pretty much gone. Next up, another one from St. Tropez. This was brand new this year also. This is the Supreme Violet, and this says for a natural deep olive tan. This is 6.7 ounces. It does come with a pump, and this retails for $48. And yes, by the way, I did purchase all of these with my hard-earned money. So the scent on this is okay. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I said it's a fresh scent. It's not my favorite, but I didn't feel like it really lingered throughout the day much. This does have a very, very strong guide color. I'll talk about more of that in a moment, but it's a very strong, well, they put violet in the name for a reason. It's like a violet brown, a berry brown color. And with that super strong guide color, it does spot with water throughout the day. So if your arms are exposed and you're washing your hands and you actually accidentally get a drop of water, you're gonna see a very prominent dot in the middle of that guide color. Now, after applying this, I waited 30 minutes before dressing, and it still felt pretty tacky in the crevice of my elbow, which is pretty common with certain sunless tanners, but I felt like this one just seemed a little extra tacky. Now, because of the super strong guide color and because of the instructions on this bottle, which tell you to shower after 8 hours, I showered after 8 hours because this was transferring like crazy on my clothes. So anywhere you sweat or anything, you're gonna get color transfer. So I think that's part of the reason why they give you that instruction to shower after 8 hours. But also it is supposed to be able to develop your full amount of color only having been on your skin for 8 hours. Now the depth of color on this one, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5 after just one coat. This was an incredible amount of color. So I'm glad that I persevered through the day of sunless tanning because it did result in a beautiful deep color. On my hands, I did wash them after 30 minutes and the color developed very nicely. On my feet and ankles, it was okay on my feet, but my ankles grabbed a little more of the color. So it was slightly more patchy, but over the course of the week, you can see after 7 days, I still had quite a lot of color left. It wore very evenly, except on the hands. And I feel like that's what happens with darker sunless tanners, or if you double coat your sunless tanner. On your hands, it's gonna probably be more remarkable that it has faded than the rest of your body. So I just went in after 5 days and reapplied it to my hands because I wanted to take advantage of the rest of the week with that nice sunless tanner. So overall, I felt like this gave really good depth of color. Now, this is one that I experimented with again a second week, and I did do a double coat. I put on a second layer of this after a couple of hours, and I wanted to see how much darker the color could develop. Now, I would say the resulting color was a 5 out of 5. This gave me the most color after 2 coats. However, that double coat of that guide color was so strange. My husband even was like, what do you have on you? It was the most odd looking color. So definitely this is one that if I use again, it is a stay at home and shower off after 8 hours, because you do not want to be seen with this on your skin. However, the resulting color was worth it. All right, let's move on to number 4. This is the Bali Body Express Tan. Having trouble speaking. This is ultra dark. Now, I was excited to try this because previously they have only had this in a dark shade. And this is a air foam applicator. So it puts more air into the product and therefore makes it dry faster. So I was really excited about this one. This one is 7.6 ounces, retails for $33.95. Let's just call it $34. However, the scent on this was awful. I would say 1 out of 5. This definitely just had kind of that sunless tanner scent. It's very, very perfumey. But oddly, this is 100% natural DHA. So I don't know why they couldn't fix the scent, but good ingredients, but horrible scent. The guide color on this is slightly green based. So those of you that struggle with a sunless tanner guide color looking orange on you, a green guide color is generally the answer to that. So this one wasn't bad. It didn't look super awful or strange. I did wait 20 minutes before dressing, and oddly still found it to be tacky until about the 45-minute mark. So normally this aero foam makes it dry down faster, but I felt like this one stayed a little tacky longer. On the hands, I washed this after 30 minutes and I felt like it gave me good even color. On my feet, it was pretty even until the end of the week, and a little extra patchiness around the ankles, but it wasn't terrible. Now, one of the perks of this being express is you are supposed to be able to get the full amount of color developing by leaving this on for just a maximum of 3 hours. So with express sunless tanners, when they say tan within 30 minutes or tan within 3 hours, they don't mean that you're gonna have your full depth of color within 3 hours or 30 minutes. They just mean that that is the time between application and you can shower off and you'll still develop the full amount of tan. So with this one, it says to leave it on for 3 hours or more to get your full depth of color. So I left it on for actually 8 hours, which is what I do even if they say 3 hours is the max. I had no color transfer from the guide color. And the next day, I felt like I had pretty good depth of color. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good. And I was excited to see how it would wear. However, as the week wore on, I couldn't believe how fast this faded. After 5 days only, all of the color was pretty much gone. I'm showing you the picture after 7 days. The heart outline makes it look like there was a little more color than there actually was. So if you look outside of the heart outline and inside the heart, it's almost the exact same color. So I was super surprised and disappointed at how fast it faded. It did fade rather evenly, but it was pretty much gone after 5 days. Next, we had a new release from Jergens. This is the Instant Sun Natural Glow Sunless Tanner, but this is in ultra deep bronze. Now, my very first sunless tanning video I ever did was the Jergens Natural Glow in the deep bronze, and that is all the depth of color they have had until this year. So I was super excited to try this one because this is the only drugstore one that I was able to try this year. So much more affordable. This one was $13.47. That's the retail price. You could probably get it a little cheaper. The size is 6 ounces, so a little less than some of the other higher end ones, but it comes with a pump. It is a foam product as well. The scent on this one is pretty much the same as the previous version. I kind of call it a fresh scent. It's not terrible. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but it doesn't linger either. So it does dissipate. The guide color on this is a very light, natural tan color. So it does give you a hint of color right away, but it's nothing unnatural. There's no green base, but it's also not orangey. I do feel like this one stays a little tacky longer. I waited an hour before dressing, and I felt like it did take about 2 hours before it was fully dried down. But then it wore well. I had no color transfer on sheets or clothes. I did wait a full 24 hours before showering. However, on the hands, I waited just an hour and the color that it developed was great. On my feet and ankles, it was nice and even. It was really good there as well. Now, after 24 hours, I felt like this gave me about 3.5 to 4 out of 5 as far as depth of color. I felt this was a very beautiful, good amount of color, nice and natural. And then how this wore throughout the week, again, one that doesn't last super long. However, it does fade nicely. So I'm showing you a picture after 7 days, but after 5 days, the color is pretty much gone, but it does fade nice and evenly. So I don't give it too much grief for that, but this isn't one that's gonna make it a whole week. Next up, we have Ulta Beauty Express Tinted Self Tan Mousse. All right, so remember what I told you before. When they say express, it means we can shower off quicker. So this one retails for $24.99, but I think I did get it on sale, hopefully. It does, however, come with its own little cute mitt. And this was actually a decent mitt to apply it. It does have a pump and it is a foam product. This is 6.76 ounces. And the scent on this, I love it. It is a 5 out of 5. It is like pina colada, so love that. The guide color on this, there was a hint of green, but overall it looked pretty natural. So I didn't feel crazy strange wearing this throughout the day. This one dried super fast. I dressed after only 15 minutes and I felt like it was pretty much dried down. No lingering tacky feel. On my hands, I washed after 45 minutes and I felt like it developed good color. On my feet, I felt like the color was pretty good. Now this one, what it says is that the maximum time to leave it on is 3 hours. And then it specifically says it will not develop any more color if you leave it on longer. And I'm like, okay, so this actually is kind of on a timer and it stops developing. Okay. So I thought, you know, I'm going to give it a couple more hours still. So I waited 5 hours before showering off with this one. And the next day, I could not believe, I'm looking at my arm as you're seeing the picture here. This was right after application, 24 hours after application. There is hardly any color whatsoever. I gave it a 1 out of 5. I was tempted to do a half a point. This was terrible, especially because it says it's ultra dark. This is not ultra dark. So I was so disappointed. And it was a week that I was going to be wearing short sleeve. And I thought, I'm not going to wait 7 days because this is basically already gone. So after 24 hours, I reapplied a second coat and I thought, all right, we're going to give this another try. So after the second coat, the next day, shock of all, I had quite a lot of color. I would say it gave me about a level 4 out of 5. So I'm showing you pictures here. So this is after 2 coats. I couldn't believe that there was such a discrepancy between 1 coat and 2. But nonetheless, I was happy I had second coated it because this then wore so well throughout the rest of the week. So at the end of the week, I still had quite a lot of color. I was shocked. I thought, for how this started off, it wasn't going to be good, but because I did 2 coats, that second coat was miraculous and it really wore well, except on the hands and the feet. Those faded pretty quickly, but otherwise I still had a good amount of color at the end of the week and it did fade very naturally. Next, we have the Tan-Luxe Express Mousse. I was in an express mood, apparently. I want to get this tan done quickly, right? This is 6.7 ounces, again, has a pump, it's a foam. This retails for $49, officially the most expensive of what I tried. The scent's okay, I would call it fruity floral. So I would actually give this maybe a 3.5 or 4 out of 5. It's not terrible, it does dissipate quickly. And this has no guide color, so there's no color transfer onto sheets or clothes, which is a really good thing. This one does say that you can shower off after 3 hours if you wish. I left it on a full 24 because there was no strange guide color or anything to worry about. Time before dressing, this one dries pretty quickly. I felt like after 20 minutes or so, I was able to dress and the tacky feeling subsided fairly quickly and I didn't feel uncomfortable throughout the day. On the hands, I washed after about 30 minutes and I felt like the color was nice and even. On the feet, the color developed pretty evenly as well. Now throughout the week, I felt like by day 6, I still had some color. It was only slightly patchy around the ankles and feet, but on the hands, of course, most of the color was gone. Now, a bonus with this one does have a lot of really good skincare ingredients. So I always love when that happens. So it's very good and hydrating and provides some great antioxidants to the skin. So really good ingredients, and overall, I felt like the depth of color from this one was about a 3.5 out of 5, but I did feel like this is one that the color starts developing a little bit sooner than some of the others. So after about 6 to 7 hours, I could start seeing some of that color develop. Again, another bonus of having my sticker on my forearm so that I could see that develop. Now, this is another one that I did put through the test of doing a double coat, and actually it is the one that I am wearing today. I did a double coat yesterday. So all that means is that after a certain amount of time, you just go in and you add a second layer. I did not rinse off the first layer. I added a second layer after about 2 hours. And I feel like this gave me a pretty good depth of color, just slightly more than with one coat. It wasn't significantly more, but it's really nice. My little sticker had stripes on it, so it kind of makes the heart a little harder to see as far as my super pale skin underneath. But I really feel like this is a really nice natural color. Again, not the darkest of the ones I tried, but the tanning experience was quite nice. The final product was the one face sunless tanner. I get asked all the time, do you apply these sunless tanners to your face? I do not. You can. I have heard people that do that, but they're typically not recommended for application to your face because the skin on our face is just really different and it can grab color so much faster and more patchy than the rest of our body does. So that is why if I do sunless tanner on my face, I use a face sunless tanner. So this year, a new one was the Bali Face Tan Mist. And this says it's ultra dark. So that always makes me a little scared because I have had some sunless tanners on the face make my face like a super kind of orangey tan color that's quite unnatural. So I have tried this out a couple of different times and finally got into my groove with this one. It is a spray mist and it's a pretty fine mist. It's not quite as fine as the Cocoa and Eve one I tested out last year, but it's pretty easy to spray this on and get a nice even coat. Now it tells you to put on 4 to 6 sprays. I actually do about 12 because I wanted to make sure that my entire face, forehead, everything was evenly coated. Let me give you some of the details. This is 3.38 ounces. This retails for $24.95. And it does have a scent to it, but it's nice and light. Again, does not linger. There's no guide color. And I feel like this one, it does have really good skincare ingredients and it's moisturizing, hydrating. So once I sprayed this on my face, I did my 12 mists or so. I just kept my eyes closed, allowed it to completely dry, and the skin actually just feels nice and moist and hydrated. It's not oily, it's not greasy, and it's easy to go in with your skincare after. So I'm gonna show you what my skin looked like this morning. I did 2 applications of this. I did it yesterday morning, let it dry completely, and then did my face moisturizer, sunscreen, makeup over the top of it, and it doesn't interfere with that throughout the day. Then in the evening, I applied another good layer of it after I had washed my face, but this time I let it stay on my skin just as it is alone for about 2 hours, and then before going to bed, I put on my nice heavy moisturizing cream, and this is the result. So I feel like of all the face sunless tanners I've tried, this is the best color ever. It's so nice and natural and even. And I didn't have to do a lot of work around the hairline to make sure that it didn't darken my natural white streaks I have here. And it didn't grab funny in my eyebrows. All I did was kind of wipe my finger through my eyebrows as it was drying, but that was it. And I feel like this really gives really nice natural color. Now, one of the reasons why I don't do sunless tanner on my face too often is because your skin on your face, especially if you're using retinol or AHA or exfoliators, it's only gonna last for a couple of days. And I feel like that is true with this. I feel like the color gradually fades, but it fades pretty quickly, about 2 to 3 days, and your color is pretty faded. But it didn't make my skin look patchy at all. The skin did not get irritated or cause any breakouts. So overall, I feel like this gives you a really good amount of color. And again, I don't feel like any sunless tanner for your face is going to last super long. So I feel like this is one that is good though if you're gonna be at the beach and you wanna just have some color on your face. This is a great one. Or if you're gonna have a pool party and you're not gonna be wearing a full face of makeup, this is a great one to give you that depth of color. Then you could put on your sunscreen and it's gonna look like you've been out in the sun when you really haven't. All right, so let me give you a quick rundown of my top and bottom favorites. Let's start at the bottom, all right? And I'm gonna give you my bottom 4. And depending on what you're looking for in a sunless tanner can determine what you feel like each one of these, where they fall in ranking. So let's just start with one that was just disappointing, and that would be this one. For the price, for my previous experience with the dark version, I was just disappointed in the fact that the color was not that dark and how fast the color faded. The St. Tropez Sorbet, I'm putting this in the bottom because I just felt like, again, the depth of color on this was so minimal and the scent is nothing to write home about. So if you're buying this, I feel like this is when you're buying specifically for the scent, and it was not my favorite and the color was not great. So I'm putting that there. These two I'm putting down here, again, depending on what you're looking for. So after 1 coat, this would have been at the bottom, but after 2 coats, it redeemed itself. So if you're willing to put in the work and do 2 coats, I think this could be a great one. But if you only want to do 1 coat, this is not for you. This one, great color, great depth of color, but only if you are somebody who wants to sunless tan at home, not see anybody, and do your sunless tanning during the day and wash it off before you go to sleep. This is not one you're gonna want to put on and go to bed because it's gonna make your sheets just look horrible. So definitely if you're a stay-at-home, don't see anybody while you're sunless tanning for 8 hours, this is one to put on because it does give you really good color. But if that's not your cup of tea, I would skip this one. Now my top 4, I would say actually this one. I was so shocked. I just fell in love with it. It was easy to use. I love the scent. And even though it took a while to dry down, it was clear, so it wasn't transferring onto my clothes, and the color that developed was really nice and natural. So if you're looking for a nice natural boost of color, this is definitely one that is a pleasant experience to use. Likewise, this was also a top favorite. Again, this color is not the darkest of the ones that I tried, especially compared to 2 coats of this one, but it was pretty painless to get here. So I love the skincare ingredients. The scent on it is actually quite pleasant. It's not terrible. And I feel like the color just lasts and fades so nicely throughout the week, but I can get a whole week out of this one. So I feel like this might be one that becomes my pre-vacation or pre-trip to Georgia for a wedding type of sunless tanner. So really nice, and I love that the color lasts throughout the week. Right up there at the top is the Jergens Instant Sun in Ultra Bronze. This really, with just 1 coat, this is one I didn't even ever test with 2 coats because I felt like with 1 coat, it gave me a good amount of color. This guide color is so nice. It just gives you a hint of some color throughout the day. So it's one you can do while you're going about throughout your day. You're not going to feel strange. The color is not going to transfer all over everything. And even though it does fade pretty quickly, the price point on this is really nice and affordable. So if you're looking for an affordable sunless tanner, you want a good amount of color with just one coat, this might be for you. And then the Bali Body Face Tan Mist. This is excellent. All right, as I close, I just wanted to bring in two from last year that were favorites and let you know that they are still in my top favorites. This one, the Bondi Sands Emerald for Deep Olive Tone. This is still one of my top favorites. This is such a reliable tan that this is actually what I used for the piano concert that I was in May, because I knew with 2 coats of this gives me a really nice deep olive tone. It's beautiful. And the guide color on this is slightly green, but it's not unnatural looking. It's a really nice even tone, so I can do this throughout the day. And this one I don't feel like is quite as long lasting throughout the week. It does fade pretty well. I love the scent of this. It has a nice coconut scent. So this is a really good one still, and still in my top favorites. And then the Bondi Sands, this is the liquid gold. If you're not into a super dark tan, this is another one that's really nice. Even though it's not clear like this one is, the guide color on this is really nice. It's beautiful. It gives you just a nice little hint of kind of a bronze color. So if you like to do sunless tanning during the day, this is another really nice one. It's going to give you more of a medium level of tan, but really nice, easy to use. It dries quickly, and this one fades very nicely throughout the week. All right, so I hope that was helpful for you, not only giving you my review of 8 new ones, but also of how they compared to a couple of my favorites from last year. As always, check the description box down below, click where it says more, hit more again, and you will see a list and links to all of the products here. Also, as soon as my next video is up, I will link that down below as well. Stay tuned for that one, because I'm gonna give you all of my secret tips and tricks to helping you be successful and fall in love with sunless tanning. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.